once you install the app already comes with a binded version of the Codex node, which is 0.22 that I'm using as of now, but I can just replace it or make a GitHub action that kind of uses the latest binary as a sidecar file. So Tauri calls node or the embedded external binaries as sidecars, and it works pretty well. All that user has to do is to install the app, and then they see this particular screen. But I'll also have an onboarding screen when they install it for the first time. They'll be selecting for their data directory, customizing their download directory and stuff. I have all of these over here in the settings, which does not look great at this point, but you can change your data directory. For example, I can select this to be my data directory, or I also have another data directory. So that means you can switch between nodes, and you can have different nodes in your machine for uh, different purposes if you want. But in my case, let me use this data directory. And all this will be a part of the onboarding as well. But at this point, I just have it in the menu. So I will add the onboarding later after these options are completed. And you can also customize the discovery port, listening port, and the API ports as per your preference. And you can also choose a directory for your files to be downloaded when you use the application. And I'm trying to take UI inspiration from this particular dribble UI. It's not exactly the same, but I feel like this is super intuitive for any person, not even a Web3 person, but this is like a torrent client UI that someone made. So I wanted to take some inspiration out of this. So yeah, we'll have the amount of data uploaded in the node and downloaded in the node, and also a upload section and all the recent downloads on the front page, which is this one. And to start the node, it's simple. All you have to do is to press this button, and you have to wait until the binary is kicked off. And you can also add more customizability, like adding uh, uh, course permissions for particular domains and stuff. So all that will be in the settings panel. But once your node is up and running, you can see that you have the upload section, which also has all the files that are uploaded using your node. And yeah, you can also see that this is live right now. But when I stop the node, this will go off. It should not be responding. So yeah, it's that simple. Uh, you can simply start and stop the node by pressing this button. And I'm trying to improve the state management uh, even now. So I think I'll complete the whole application this weekend. But then, yeah, that's the idea. You have the file storage options here, and then you also have configuration options here. So, for example, if you run a node and want to download a file, let's try downloading a file that's on Codex. So maybe this one that I already uploaded. So when I download this, this is probably going to be here in this folder. Yeah, this one. So yeah, you can customize your folder for downloads over here. And the intention was to keep it very simple without making the UI complex. I feel like the uh, biggest UX improvement that we have is the binded binary and the start and stop button, because someone who is non-technical, who does not want to start a terminal, can simply use this application to start and
Yeah.
stop. And yeah, more customizability here. And you can also view the logs here, but I'm trying to use the same implementation that Ben used for logs using a file in the Codex installer. So yeah, I wanted to show the logs from the file over here. And additionally, I was comparing this with the IPFS app, which we already discussed earlier. So here they have status, which is supposed to be the second menu over here. This one was just torrents for a placeholder because I was kind of copying the UI from this before I implement the functionalities. But yeah, this will be similar to the status tab over here, where you can see all the peers that you are connected to, and some network related information, and along with globe like this, which kind of tells you where your peers are located. This also gives a feeling of decentralization to people who are not really technical. So I feel like this is really nice to have, just so that they know that they are connected to other peers around the world. And settings is,
It might be useful because I think we talked about this in terms of like the DHT connections. They might be stale. You never know because you don't really know after you discover the peers um, whether they're actually going to be relevant to any of the data that you're actually downloading. So it'd be useful, I think, if you do want to give that sentiment uh, to users to show the peers that they're connecting to during the actual data download.
yeah, I think the Codex Vault app also has a implementation that is very similar to this.
Yeah, it's not finished, unfortunately, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what the intent should be for that one as well, is to change it to show connections that are ongoing for downloading or maybe even uploading
Mhm.
versus just DHT connections. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out the UI library that they use for this, because this really looks like a really good map. And I feel like Arno also used the same library in the Codex Vault app. I think I saw it at some point, but I don't think the
Okay.
functionality was completed. So I can
Yeah.
give a shot in completing the functionality. But even if that's not going to be there for the first iteration or the first version, it will be there at some point. But yeah, the idea was to have a status page which displays all these network related information. And yeah, then I was not sure about yeah, so I have a small notepad here where I listed down all these menu options. So I just have three menu options at this point in mind for the first version. So we can iteratively add other options when, for example, when Ben's Constellations is ready. That would probably be something like this uh, that they have in the IPFS app, where they call it archives, and you can uh, kind of create archives for each of your project. For example, this is, I think, a space archive for the Apollo machine. Uh, and there's also more archives here. So this could be a option when Constellations is ready to be
I
integrated
like the
inside.
second option from the top, XKCD archives. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah, this could be a future scope, but at this point, I just wanted to complete this page, the start and stop, and the network information, which is basic, and also the customizability. And finally, like, you can also search CIDs by simply copy pasting a CID here, and if the CID is found, you can simply download the file, even if it's on a remote node. So yeah, this is uh, as simple as I thought it could be. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to ship as soon as possible, so that people who are not technical can use this.
That's super awesome. Yeah, I'm sure the non-technical people who've been struggling with getting a node online will definitely appreciate this.
Yeah, I think we also need to create different desktop binaries. I mean, the desktop app binaries for different platforms. But Tauri also makes that simpler. So yeah, that's not going to be hard. So my idea was to create a simple landing page for this with just a screenshot and the
Yeah.
features, and then have the download buttons below that, so that we can, potentially list this in the docs when it is actually stable, or if it becomes stable. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is better to have this as a pilot version or a beta version for some time. And also another specific improvement, or the way I implemented it, is renaming the binary to be Codex Desktop and not Codex itself, so that if people are already having a Codex node, this will not be interfering with their Codex binary that is installed. And so, yeah, basically the shell that runs behind is running a binary called Codex Desktop, and that way it won't interfere with existing Codex nodes or existing Codex binaries.
Anything you wanted to mention, Ben? You've been quiet.
You gave me an idea, or something somewhere in this gave me an idea, and I just wrote a message to my future self with this idea. Also, have you seen what's going on in the testnet? It's doing stuff.
Oh, not really. I'm not sure what's happening.
Sorry, I've been slightly distracted by this.
Marketplace functionality is not breaking.
Oh, is it working?
It's looking pretty good so far.
Okay.
Guru's like,
Yeah, it's like we got more work to do in that case. But yeah, I mean, I feel like having the installer updated first would be the best way to go ahead. And for me, after completing this and shipping this out on Twitter, I just wanted to tweet and make a blog on this. And after that, my priority would be completing the documentation and the videos that we had in our to-do list. So that's on top of the highest priority. And after that, I have the dashboard, the metrics dashboard integration. So yeah, I feel like it's all on my plate. Ben has completed what I wanted. So yeah,
nice.
I
We can get some internal folks on the Codex team to test out the new Codex installer as well. I don't know if you've still, I don't know if you've reviewed the PR of Ben's Codex installer to merge to master. But once that's done, then we can start testing.
perfect. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you can merge that whenever you're happy with it, Guru.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the docs ready so that we can go live when the docs are going live.
Yep. Cool.
Makes sense.
Anything else? Any other random tidbits of cool updates? I'm sitting on a lot of cool shit right now, but I can't talk about it until like I think in a couple weeks maybe. But yeah, some pretty cool stuff that's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah, I can just say I was still working on my prototype of the Constellations Protocol, and
Yeah.
it's just now starting to work with like a single star, which is kind of like a single file, sort of.
Mhm.
It's a little different, but it gives you already like health information about this thing. So you can see how well it's distributed and if it's in danger of being lost or not, which is a key feature that this will be built on top. So Constellations itself is built on top of these stars, which are built on top of Codex and Waku. So it's going in the right direction. But
Are you able
I
to talk
don't
about
really
it a
have
little bit
anything.
more? Like,
Well,
for instance, is it using altruistic mode or is it going to be using durability mode?
It's definitely not using the paid mode. So it's
Okay.
designed initially for a community of people who want to collectively support a bunch of data. I don't have anything to show for it at this time. At the moment, it's just like a terminal and a bunch of tests that are running for like 20 minutes. And, that's it. But I was figuring maybe I would try having an AI generate a front end for this at some point and see what happens.
It's good at that. Yeah. Even Figma has built in like front end generation code tools as long as you design it a little bit. So yeah, definitely there are options.
Yeah. So I plan to do that. And we have to see how the testnet progresses, but hopefully it'll allow me some time to put into this prototype.
Cool. Do you want to mention the motivations of why you're building Constellations in terms of problems we're kind of trying to help solve with Codex internally?
Yeah, so the big picture is we have Codex, which is good at the moment, it's good at non-changing big data. So large files that don't change. And on the other hand, we have Waku, which is for messaging. So it's very good at fast, quickly changing small data. Right. So we can combine this, we get something that can help you sort of get a little closer to the best of both. The idea of Constellation is something that, like, we've had people build prototypes on both of these projects before, and they tend to converge on some functionality that they all share. So there is like a common idea of something that is obvious when you combine Codex and Waku. And Constellation is supposed to be that. It's like a distillation that by itself isn't necessarily useful for people, but it is definitely useful for underpinning these apps. And I think the easiest way to think about it is if you have a Constellation ID, it's some random numbers like you would normally expect from something hashed, then that is like a memory stick, and you can mount it. And then you can do ls, and it'll show you paths and files in this file system. Right? So anyone can, but it's not a physical device, it's on the internet. So anyone can mount it, and anyone can read the files in there unless encrypted. And people can collaborate to volunteer their hardware to support this data in this virtual file system. And then someone makes a change, it will automatically disseminate. And then there are rules over who gets to change which part of which data. And you can like authorize someone or revoke the ability for people to make modifications.
Interesting.
And it will tell you how well the data is disseminated. And when you make a change, you can see like first only you have it, and then other nodes will pick it up, and you can see the number go up as more and more people fetch your data, fetch your changes. So, yeah, a whole bunch of stuff could be built with this. When I was prototyping, when I was designing the protocol, when I was designing the original thing, I was thinking of like, obviously status communities need something like this, but also
Right.
I was thinking you could make, could you make a forum, just a good old internet, a web forum with this?
You know what could also use this? The Portal Network.
The Portal Network, right?
Yeah.
And as a sort of a dreamy Friday afternoon, I was thinking, could I use this for like a video game? Like I could have a constellation, like a single file system, and it would have some paths. And in some part, there is the game data, which is like the 3D models and the assets and the videos and just the big game data. But some other part of the drive would be user data, like save games and achievements and
Sure.
whatever. And this would be much more quickly changing, and it would be editable by different users than the game data itself. Like the game data, the publisher edits it, right? Or the people who make the 3D models, they can edit the 3D models. But then there are other parts of the same space where different rules apply. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it will support all of this, and it would need some good tooling around it that would allow people to manage these, these virtual drives, right? And obviously, because it's Codex and Waku, it would be uncompromised on its decentralization. It would be actually decentralized. So,
Nice.
yeah. But the first version I'm working on is not going to be that fancy, and I don't expect it to perform very well. And I expect it to break when you throw large files at it. That's why it's a prototype. But it will hopefully prove the point. So, have I convinced you? How's my sales pitch?
I'm convinced.
Excellent.
Guru? I don't know. Guru
Yeah,
has some ideas as well.
Yeah, I wish I can already invest in this. If I was rich, I would do it. Yeah, I mean, I think the UX, in an UX aspect, this is easily deliverable for an end user. They can easily understand this with a perspective where Ben says this is a shared pen drive that lives on the internet. I feel like the storytelling part is already nice. And even with the desktop app, I wanted to have something like a seeding functionality where if you see an interesting file on the Codex network, you can simply opt to kind of seed it, just like how you do it in torrent by providing it for another person or just saving it in your local node so that it's available for another person to download. So I'm not yet sure about how the UX would look like if I should just imitate the same torrent desktop app UX or if it can be better. But Constellations
You
look,
could probably get a Akil to help you. Akil would, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make a prototype, put it in front of people, and then people are going to come.
Totally get it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
rather than me saying that this is how it looks, I feel like I'm following the same approach as Ben. Like, have something that works as a prototype,
yeah,
and then you put
yeah,
it on people, and then they
yep,
contribute to it, right? So
yeah,
yeah, but I also think it's nicer to have this as a separate onboarding or separate way
mm,
of using Codex rather than suggesting people to do this way. So
yeah.
yeah, but
Maybe we
yeah,
can just summarize in a nutshell, like what changes we're going to be making to the docs for Codex, and then maybe we can create a new category for Constellations for your desktop installer that might be separate, or even in the same category, but maybe Constellations less so. But since it's not necessarily a Codex related installer, and it's more of a protocol built on top.
We'll have to see. I mean, at this point, it still has everything to prove. So
Mm,
I kind of don't want to waste anyone else's time on it, only mine, until it actually runs and multiple people say they like it. So I waste
yeah,
my weekends, that's fine, but I waste yours, that's more of a problem.
yeah.
yeah. I think the next project that I would look forward to after this would be a prototype for a pinning service on top of Akash that I mentioned before. So
That would
I'm
be
trying
interesting.
to spec out because all the other pinning services that exist on IPFS have been using AWS or centralized hyperscalers. So
Hmm.
Akash would uh, delegate, we can literally delegate the decentralization problem of the compute to Akash. So that way, most of the issues are solved. But also, when you look at the way how Infura or any other pinning services operate IPFS or Filecoin, they just have their own infra running all these nodes and they never interact with the Filecoin marketplace at all. And this is how they are able to provide competitive pricing for smaller files. And the justification they have for this is that once they reach a threshold, for example, with Lighthouse, once they reach a 25 GB threshold for a particular account, that's when they archive the data into uh, the Filecoin marketplace or when
Mm,
they actually interact with the Filecoin marketplace. Until then, it's just like 5 or 4 altruistic IPFS nodes saving these files locally. And this is super centralized. So that's where I thought simply ingesting Akash would be a very huge difference. So I wanted to make a small prototype for this. And I also feel like all these projects can can build on top of each other at some point. For example, the desktop
mhm.
app can easily uh, make use of constellations, just like how the IPFS desktop uses archives. This could be a more decentralized version of uh, the same feature. And similarly, with the pinning service, can also leverage something like constellations for smaller sizes of data. So, yeah, I think all the three projects are interesting.
Yeah, I would like to say my hope is that so Constellations by itself will be altruistic, right? People provide their resources for free to support content they like. My hope is that there'll be situations where there are constellations with data, but they have trouble gathering or maintaining enough volunteers to support the data. So this could then at some point drive paid data demand in Codex. It's like maybe I'm
Yeah,
running a constellation for some content for some game I'm hosting,
yeah,
and too many people, too many volunteers leave. I can bridge that by putting some Codex tokens in the Codex marketplace and persist the data this way. And then maybe in
yeah,
the future, game is more popular again, more volunteers come in, and I don't have to do that anymore. But I would like, so at some point this should have something user facing, some UI, and it would be great if at that moment, it has this option, like it can offer this to users when they use a system like this. So
I think when status communities was like the main focus, I think, can't remember if it was 2019, 2020, but they had mentioned that, the dynamic that they had wanted to create within the status app was that that of similar to like a Discord server. So, you create a Discord server, it's just you and maybe one buddy, and then it kind of grows over time. You have multiple people coming in, and the one person who's the server owner essentially has to provide the infrastructure to back up all the GIFs, all the text, all the videos, all of the files that are being exchanged on that server. But then as the community grows, then they could kind of stretch that to include other people. And so you could have, and this is why they were proposing NFTs for roles, because you can potentially have the NFT give more permissions to the different people within the server, so that they are providing infrastructure. They do have, moderator or administrator permissions when they need to. But then to your point, once things either get too big or if volunteers drop off, they had already intended, at least to my knowledge, to provide some sort of archival service that took the infra provisioning out of the hands of the server owners and the people within the server, and kind of could remotely transfer that burden to, a remote provider. But again, like Codex wasn't around to help them, so now we are, and now you're building something on top of Codex that can probably help do that. So that's really nice.
Yeah, if I'm even half right about how this is going to work, then it should work for this purpose. And it seems like it sort of automatically produces some nice properties. Like if you have a constellation with a bunch of data, different files are going to be at different levels of availability in the network. And so when you sign up and you say, okay, I want to support this, you can automatically see where your help is most needed. And simply by having these metrics and just a little bit of code, these things sort of can automatically direct their resources to where the whole thing is most vulnerable. So, yeah, that's like exactly the kind of behavior that you would want from such a thing. Cool. And of course, at some point, Codex will expose the eraser coding options like to the external API, and then it can sit on top of that as well. And then you even have these properties where even if the like part of the data set gets lost for some of these things, there'll be options to reconstruct. So yeah,
that's super exciting for what both of you guys are building. I'm looking forward to seeing everything kind of fleshed out more. It's awesome.
I just want to get this to work,
Yeah, all of it. When all of it's working, it's going to be awesome. All right. Well, thanks for everybody who wanted to tune into this YouTube video update on Guru's desktop installer plus Ben's work in progress Constellations project. We'll have another update for you guys next week. It might be something new. I think we haven't gone over Codex Stalker, which is Adam's other project aside from Codex Factory. It's more marketplace monitoring tools. We might consider making a segment for storage providing people. So maybe we have like a playlist on YouTube dedicated to the tools that they might want to use and the tools that they might want to build that we can potentially spec out with them if they're interested. We can also probably have a segment like a playlist on, for instance, the archival data that Internet Archive was dealing with issues around. Maybe a playlist around that could contain the file hog video of the spec that we went over. And if any external contributors are interested in helping us help the Internet Archive persist that data by building tools and running them on decentralized infrastructure, please feel free to reach out.